Hello, welcome. This is going to be another special edition of the Daily Dharma. I don't normally record on the weekends, but today actually is Mother's Day, and I'm just feeling a lot of different energy coming through. There's a lot of solar storms. I don't necessarily follow that material enough to speak directly on it very often, but I've been just feeling it in my life. And in fact, just as a side note, I'm much more of an intuitive astrologer and a transpersonal astrologer than the mundane astrology of watching it and looking at it and diagnosing it and forecasting it like a weather report. Because how often is the weatherman correct in your neck of the woods? Maybe you don't have that much fluctuation, but where I'm located at, there's always fluctuation and the weatherman is never correct. And and so there's something about this coming in today where there's this fluctuation that you're feeling on a deep intuitive level, and it's bringing up quite a bit of information. And so I sense that many of us are either feeling a need to step back to separate off perhaps for a bit of perspective, or to look more deeply at the details of a situation, to address some choice point that has come up as an undeniable need for change. And in the previous couple of readings, there were either some type of new revelation or a new discovery that has changed things, or in other cases it was a deviation of paths that it's bringing people away from each other, or there's just these various different situations arising that seems to be related to either some type of generational type of I want to say in the moment empowerment code. And I just saw 222 on the timer when I said that. It's the empowerment code, as I'm being said, is part of our ability to navigate and respond. It's like that same image of the Tai Chi master of the elementals, not just of other individuals showing themselves in the sport to me, and then we're going to have a playful or serious bout of mock combat or intentional combat. It's more on the elemental level, like as I'll call it the storms of life, the invitations of others from their heart space, connected space, their ego and disconnected space, or ego from a wounded standpoint. And we can be these people too in our lives. And so with these solar storms, it always seems to me that the silver lining, if you will, is that the sun, I believe, is the holder of the GoldenLight codes 333. And those GoldenLight codes being that the identifying persona, the versus my friend the other day in a conversation was calling it the multidimensional personality. And I'm going to borrow that phrase once again, because it's like operating from a point of consciousness allows us to make space for other viewpoints and other things that don't necessarily agree with our perspective. Because as we have seen, many of us, the different depictions of it depends on how you are looking at a situation, whether this one object is of a square shape or a cylindrical shape. If it's the end of a thing in two dimensions, then it might look like a circle, but viewed in two dimensions, and if it's elongated, maybe we can only perceive the edges and it looks flat and perhaps angular because we're perceiving the edges, right? So this might seem 444. I'm watching those numbers. It's coming through. So pay attention to your own channeling and your own thought trajectory too, because it has a certain flow. It has something unique coming through. Automatic writing has come up in conversation recently with a friend. And talking about the way that we use our energy being quite particular right now. I interrupted a flow earlier and I said something at 4:44 that I didn't complete, but we'll get back to it. So I've already laid out some cards. I started with the mixed shamanic deck, which I've been doing the last few days. It feels really right to do so. The first card out is number 20, Feast of Plenty, Choices and Their Consequences. And this came out clarified with Consciousness, which is 17. So 20 is the card of judgment and 17 the card of the star, Aquarius. And the way I'm seeing this is that many things have come and gone through the lessons and experiences that arise. Our seeking for adventure and for the limits of self, the edges of self and other, and when we meet, does that feel like synergy or friction? And how do we feed that, soothe that, accommodate the intolerable, or esteem that which is high moral character, high moral ground, ethical reinvention? I don't know where I'm at today, but I hope you appreciate the flow. So Feast of Plenty, we're going to get back to that one, but it's about the, I just yesterday said the word stoic, and then this morning, the little tidbit of mental nourishment I pulled from the ethers was some little thing I shared on the community page about Marcus Aurelius and how to deal with toxic people. And it seems like this can also be applied to the inner toxin that we have subconsciously, unconsciously been made to resonate and become compatible with. In different scenarios, this might ring the bell of resentment. This might ring the bell of that time that I felt less than. And this one, a bit of envy. This one, a bit of overachiever, or this one, a bit of underachiever, or having been failed at something. All of these little pings are part of that inner narrative that we are being told to really work on the clarity and those swords talking about the judgment and discernment, that double-edged blade, which can sometimes become quite inner self-judgment, and bringing back clarity to how we remember things can sometimes require us to dive back into something and look at something from another viewpoint to create more perspective. But I'm sensing that you're a very intentional, conscious creator, especially at this point in your life, as though you've made a recommitment to this, and those that are perhaps outside of the way that you would navigate something with integrity or high moral, ethical, whatever. This is becoming challenged, and I was sensing with the next card, Earthkeeper 18 with 3 solar plexus, I was sensing this as you having this old soul remembrance to yourself. And someone said everybody to an extent is probably old soul, and to an extent I do agree as well. I'm no expert here, but that I think that some people are so distracted by the earthly experience, leaving it there, that they become very rigid and structured and identified as I am not statements that sometimes can become quite complex in their multiplicity, but keeps them almost veiled from their own multiplicity, if you follow. So with Earthkeeper, I was sensing this being that individual who perhaps brings those cosmic, universal energetics here to heal and to work through those things, and having witnessed someone who perhaps has the inability to stay within some wished for level from our perspective. Not that this person is less than, not that judgment of, but that someone was unable to keep their word in a situation. And this brought some type of whether it's betrayal energy or distrust energy, lack of faith. This Earth Keeper has been challenged by those words of others and has, I want to say, potential to periodically have energetic drains that come through the judgment of whether or not it's possible to have such confidence in the directions that are not widely celebrated, perhaps. So I have one more card set over here, but I want to move over here. Next, 60, Watchers, transpersonal and integration as the clarifying energy here. See that top energy there? It's that shedding of the skin suit and that energetic rebirth process here. This may be happening through something like the energetic planes, those golden light codes being integrated into our vessel. May be important for you to get some sunlight, some vitamin D, something like that in whatever safe manner that feels good to you. But there's an ancient quality mixed with the moment and the psychology and so on, here and now. And I believe that there are those beings, energies surrounding us, kind of watching us, and they're not connected to the human ego, judging us as some might believe in such intensity, right? They are transpersonal. They are perhaps like the angelic Stoics, always taking that integrity, that ethic to the next level and saying, well, so what? It doesn't matter what you just did. It was in the past. I'm hearing Rafiki on The Lion King, and he just whaps him on the head and he says, what'd you do that for? He says, it doesn't matter. It was in the past. And it's like that beautiful, playful energy of 12-12, getting out of stagnancy and saying, it doesn't matter, moving on. And it's like no longer the self-judgments, no longer the residual anchors, no longer the fly that wants to keep attending my readings. So there's this transpersonal planetary influence too, like not having to quantify your energetic knowing, your psychic intuitive knowledge and wisdom that may be beyond this time and space. It may be beyond your recognized areas of study and expertise, but there's something here speaking through cosmic waves, through the solar radiation, maybe, as these golden light codes are being strung into the ethers here. It will not be resonant with all. It will very much challenge those things that need to be triggered in the moment so that we can click into our own cognition, cogs in the wheel, our own understanding and coherence here of how we perceive earthly matters with the eyes of the eagle, rising above the fray of those who are frazzled and unraveled, like the sweater, that stupid sweater being unraveled. It's just an image that keeps coming that seems silly. And it's that those cards coming down here, I'm just buzzing in my head. I don't know if you guys are feeling this. Next, 34, Lay of the Land, Ancestral Wisdom with Divine Masculine coming out next. Some of these cards are repeats, and I tell you what, this is a mixed deck, but I shuffle the cards into each other like the like was just being described, and then I split the deck several times, and then I again, and then I side to side, I end to end, and then I split the deck and interconnect those, and the similar card spreads are coming out for a reason, because this energy is several days in the making. So if you need a little more context of how I'm getting to some of these points, if I'm skipping some of the things that describe some of these, you may check some of the previous readings, because this Lay of the Land had come out before as this invocation, having this experience of having finally understood something very, very deeply, I'll say, and then having this point of reaching the top of, I can't even remember because it's been several readings, but this time master blowing us through this portal, like through the face of the sun, and having been born on the other side, it seems like this was the card that came out. Having gotten to the other side of this sun is like this, somehow an achievement, some Six of Wands moment, taking the stage, taking a bow, this invocation or declaration, this, however you invoke, with sound, with humming, is very sacred sometimes, or listening to the songs in nature. Somehow there's sound and vibration and resonance coming from inside of you deeply, invoking, calling forward, and conjuring this life invocation to empower yourself to move into this next level of universal love, to change your frequency itself by integrating this transpersonal energy within yourself, understanding that there are always beings with us, helping us and supporting us, and as we are surrounded by them, we don't need to feel like we're also surrounded by idiots, because we're also one of those idiots in someone else's perspective, right? So, yes. So coming down to the bottom, over below this, conscious choices and reaping the consequences of who we're listening to, who we're identifying with, what we're pulling in, integrating, what we're letting ourselves absorb, and what we're allowing ourselves to cut ourselves free of, and to advocate for with those swords. How we're communicating is our voice. Our voice is our choice, and the consequences that ring back are the foundation of our free will and reality. Sculpting, being the architect of our reality. So down here we have deep diver, yet again, diving into a task with remembrance. 10 and 38. 10 is the end of a cycle, and it was like that free fall energy that came through the other day. I never said the word free fall in the energy, but it wasn't Earthkeeper, it was the giveaway. It almost looked to me like this individual had these wings from the Earthkeeper card that was kind of like crisscrossed here, covering the self, having this experience of reservation with the idiosyncrasies of the human dimension, feeling guarded, feeling betrayed or lied to, or left, that energy of having been fooled. That's the energy of having been fooled, yes. Disclarity and confusion energy in the energy that then became this energy of the giveaway, where as we released that, our hands were open, and all of a sudden it was like spirit passes this huge ball of wax to us, and we have to catch it. And it was as though the individual was like, their wings were like, whoosh, as they caught it, and falling backward, like a trust fall into the situation that comes at us, this blessing, perhaps unbeknownst to us. And then it felt like having caught that was this immersive moment into our deep consciousness, psychic energies, and this emotional release energy, whether it was the overwhelm card, the overwhelm and plenty card came out with Feast of Plenty that day. And it was talking about this, either tears of joy or tears of release or sadness or remembrance, having latent memories or goals that come back to tease us back awake. Diving into a task here. It's as though the ancestors are watching us navigate these portals, and just like, wow, like I feel like you are so awakened in this moment, but still having little pockets of doubt and little zingers from the environment to remind us of how it feels being in body, how to remain in proper context with our neighbors who are not where we're at, perhaps, and to remind ourselves to be the change maker, to be the change that we wish to be in the world as this conduit of unconditional love. We don't need to hold the grudge against those who cannot, who don't have the eyes to see or the ears to hear the impact that they are creating here. So, lastly, over here, we have Eyes of the Eagle. Okay, it's kind of fallen here. Eyes of the Eagle rising above the fray. We already talked about that a bit. Look at that circular monocle type of energy with those blue codes. It to me is like understanding the way to read into situations. It's sometimes I was talking to a friend about our ability to almost read the 2112 there, to read the aura, or not even the aura, but the inner landscape, let's say, of the individual that we're talking to, perhaps at a deeper level than they've met themselves, because to us, having integrated so much light and dark aspects to reach a point of deep, expansive balance, we're more centered, we're more aligned, we're less tippy because our balance is grounded in such a larger context, such a greater multiplicity that we can not become unshaken by the differences of others. So I'm seeing us as being able to read our own cosmic blueprint in the moment, being able to further activate ourselves to become self-actualized self-activators, some type of pathway towards self-mastery in this way. And look at how energetic this eagle is. And we just had the Taurus new moon, but I believe we already had the Scorpio full moon. So Scorpio, I only bring that in because eagle can be one of the highest aspects of the Scorpion archetype, where we rise above the storms, no longer needing to be the phoenix that burns ourselves down into oblivion. We understand that all of those lower aspects that we might have judged ourselves for were actually quite divine. Our mistakes were us questing for experience on some level, or to find the edges of what we perceived as real, that boundary, that fear threshold, or whatever it might be. But then it's clarified by 3 cards came out. So I had coherence, earth, and then perception all coming out here. And so these 3 with the eyes of the eagle, it's like we have the eyes to perceive through the situation. We have that self-activation going on here. And I think that we are being told that this is a whole new level here. And it's exciting. Under the deck, one of the first cards that I saw today was the Spiral, which to me talks about a number of things. Under that, Sky Bridge, possibility for union. And then this really eclectic card of this Joyful Muse. Look at how crazy that is. So Joyful Muse is the 33 card, which to me is a level of self-mastery, and talks about being our quite unique, independent self, and really not being held up by inner judgments or fear of being different. It's like the difference between those that feel free to go and experiment and be and say whatever they dare fearlessly, while others are over there trying to accommodate. I'm noticing there's a card below Spiral. Oh, it's the Hunter card. That's great. So the Hunter, Very interesting. Talking about adventure, the chariot moving forward. It's the spiral talking about things that go round and round, and how every experience is ultimately just a little different, even if it follows a pattern. We're chasing the spiral up. We are activating our very DNA, that double helix spiral. And that sky bridge is like we are that chakra rainbow bridge that is connecting spirit and matter. And lastly, before my dog goes nuts over there, I did end up shuffling like crazy. But what was under the deck before was this looking at the underbelly, which I pulled last night during a conversation on the phone. And I thought it was maybe for that time and space, but it's for this as well. So looking at the underbelly is number 6. Be sure that you're using your time in the best possible manner. You might consider taking time to organize yourself, or perhaps a project you're working on could use some fine tuning. So taking the moment to sit and create the good energy with something. And lastly, we have 24. Love where you are. Use your sensitivity to know when to act. Connect your heart to your head when determining what you would like. So when you're manifesting, it looks like, and in our life in general, it's very important for us to make sure we're addressing what really matters to us, and generating from what we want to see in the world, and seeking out those relationships and conversations that are inspiring and not devouring, and giving voice to the things that are hopeful, your hopes, your plans, your projects. What are you going and doing? What are you into? What lights you up? What philosophy have you been working out? Give your ideas some sparkle to devour, and don't use your voice necessarily to vent and complain and advocate for the things that are going wrong in your life. Not to deflect their importance. When we need to address a problem, we need to look at it in the eyes. But to not use our voice to say, well, you do this, you do that, this is what's wrong, blah, blah, blah. But being more curious and adventurous with it would be more to question, like, sometimes I can find myself feeling negative ideas about some things going on, whether that's self or other. And I'm curious about, if you could do anything, what would blah, 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 what would you do with this? Or I'm feeling the need for an adventure. What would you do? Seeking for inspiration, seeking for connection instead of division, in whatever way that applies to your situation. And as we're spending time alone, making sure to do that automatic writing on what needs to move, because what are we calling in? What do we really prefer? What do we desire? And being appreciative of everything that we are in this moment, having some level of an attitude of gratitude. Like, I woke up this morning, I have breath in a body, and I'm going to work on just connecting those for a moment, and setting my intentions to have a day where I can bring myself back to peace and unity. And that reminds me, the last few days I had laid out this. Let me reach it. This is the Reiki principles. And I've heard it a different way in the past, but let me read this to you, to anyone who is new. Just for today, do not worry. Just for today, do not anger. Just for today, be grateful for your blessings. Just for today, do your work honestly. Just for today, be kind to every living thing and your environment as an extension of your mother. So much love to you guys. I do feel like I wanted to just take a quick pull from this deck. I've been missing it the last few days and just close out here. We'll go with that. Under the deck, assistance. Yes, you're surrounded by this energy pushing you forward from the behind as my dog is pushing me with his energy. Listening to some music may be uplifting and powerful to help move some of these energies through your plexus energy center. Starseed energy here off of the back of the deck seems to be this universal change force coming in. So it's awakening your roots, your cosmic anchor, and faith coming over the watchers and lay of the land. So trust that the energies are here and coming through the face of the sun and helping you to create that empowerment and sense of faith, hope, and love. One more. Return of spirit. Absolutely. I do hope that you all enjoyed that. If so, please like, share, subscribe, and join me in this cosmic spiral here down the rabbit hole for next week, and check in for the messages that come through then. So happy Mother's Day to all, and take good care. Love y'all. Bye.